Hey everyone, this is Mike and welcome back to Raiding 101. Today I'm gonna do a quick little video on the meta, why it matters to some people and why it isn't important at all for, I believe, pretty much everyone that is watching this video. So the main reason why I didn't want to talk about it is because the changes that are being brought in Shadowbringers were really good, that right now every single job is viable, even for week 1 progression and ultimate raiding as well. So if you're just here to know whether or not your job is good or bad, play whatever you're good at and you'll be fine, don't worry about it too much. Now the main reason why I still wanted to make this video is because on some of the previous raiding 101s that I've made, I've seen some comments about people saying that they're getting kicked out of parties or not allowed into parties just because of the job that they are playing. And that is a very bad mentality to have, because currently, as I said before, every single job is viable. Yes, it is true that certain jobs are better than others, but as long as you're not competing for like rank 1 speed kill spots on FF logs, it doesn't really matter what you do. So far, it's much more important for you to play a job that you are good at rather than to play a job that is supposedly good. A good example for this would be, for example, me when I did my week 1 progression for this current raid tier. I played Red Mage, and if you ask people, Red Mage is the worst caster out of all three. And they're not wrong, Red Mage does the least damage compared to Summoner and Black Mage. And by a fair bit even as well, it's like a good 1000 DPS behind both of them, because Summoner and Black Mage at the moment are really strong. Now the reason why I still decided to play Red Mage is because it brings that resurrection, and it's a spammable res as well for the most part. So whenever we were progging and we were looking at new mechanics, I was always making sure that everybody was alive so that we could see how the mechanic played, because when you're going into a fight blind and you're figuring out new mechanics, it's very important to have everyone alive so that you can see how the mechanic plays out. And Red Mage was a very important factor for us to figure out all of those mechanics so fast this current raid tier. If I were to be playing something like a Summoner or a Black Mage, we definitely wouldn't have cleared it as fast as we did, because even on our E5 Savage clear, for example, I basically saved both of the healers at a part where we needed healing, and if one of the healers would have to solo heal that part, or they had to resurrect the other healer or something like that, then we wouldn't have been able to make it through that part of the fight, and then we'd have to start all over again or something like that. So that's why I played Red Mage, why I thought it was important for me to be on that job. Now, when it comes down to DPS and DPS checks and that kind of stuff, I get it that certain jobs are going to be favored over others. Again, back to this caster example, Red Mage does less damage, provides less damage for the whole raid, compared to Summoner and Black Mage. So when we were on E8 Savage on Shiva, we were hitting Enrage and it was super tight, the DPS check. I did consider going Summoner because I'm like, well, I still have a res if I save my Swift cast, and I'm also going to be contributing a little bit more damage. Now the main reason why I didn't switch is because I wasn't practiced on Summoner. I haven't played it for like a month, 2 months straight or something like that. Like, I learned how to play the basics of Summoner back when I did the rotation guides for all of the jobs, but since I made that video, I hadn't played Summoner at all. So me having played Red Mage for now a week straight, having progressed all the way through Shiva, learning the whole rotation and the fight on that job, made it so that my Red Mage play was pretty good on Shiva. So then to switch to a job that is quote-unquote better or stronger, but me not knowing what the hell I'm doing on it, would be a mistake. And when I went into that same fight again the next week with a weapon, of course, because I switched to Summoner for week 2 because the weapon dropped for it, and it would be a waste to not use that weapon. I switched to Summoner, I played Summoner for the whole week, and I was playing like absolute trash. Even though Summoner is stronger than Red Mage and I now had a weapon, I was only barely beating the damage that I was doing on my Red Mage just because I was a much better Red Mage player at that time. Of course, now I've practiced Summoner for 4 weeks, I'm a much better Summoner player, but back then, if I had to just immediately switch for just that Shiva kill to Summoner, we probably wouldn't have cleared the fight because my damage on Summoner just wasn't good. And with that, I want to just say, play what you're good at, don't play what is good. For 99% of the people that are just here to play the game, to clear fights, to do their weekly clears of Savage, that kind of stuff, it is much better to just play what you feel good at playing rather than to play what is meta, because meta only matters for the people that are going for those rank 1 speed clears on FF logs and that kind of stuff, because of course for those teams, playing a meta team composition is incredibly important because they are competing for a ranking. As long as you're just here to play the game, to just kill the fights for loot, or just do your weekly clears and that kind of stuff, or you're just raiding for fun, then all of these kind of things don't matter. Play what you're good at, don't play the meta. And because of that, I also want to say that you should not lock out certain jobs in a party finder. When you open a party finder, it should kind of look like this: 2 tanks, 2 healers, 1 melee, 1 ranged, 1 caster, and then your 4th DPS slot should be whatever it wants it to be, if it's a 2nd melee, a 2nd ranged, or a 2nd caster. Now, I do know that double ranged at the moment is in a little bit of a bad spot, because of how the standard composition works and how the ranged are currently in a weak position. So if you don't know what the standard composition is and why it is important in Shadowbringers and how it's changed, is that basically for each unique role that you have in the party, you are going to be getting a raid buff. I don't know the exact math behind it, but I think it's something like a 1% boost, buff. Wow, can't even speak anymore. But like a 1% buff to all of your stats, so more HP, more damage, more healing, that kind of stuff. So that means that you want 1 tank, 1 healer, 1 melee, 1 ranged, 1 caster. And as soon as you have those requirements, you can do whatever you want. Now, of course, in your normal fighting scenario, you have 2 tanks and 2 healers. That's normal. But then when it comes down to your DPS, you can basically have a lot more flexibility, because you want 1 of each, so you have that. But then that 4th slot can be whatever you want it to be. Now, because the DPS that the ranged contribute at the moment is the lowest out of all of the roles, it basically only really has its spot in a party composition because they provide that raid buff for the unique roles and that kind of stuff. So because of that, double melee or double caster is the preferred team composition at the moment. But outside of that, and especially right now when we're like 7 weeks into the raid here, everybody that is going into Savage probably has a decent amount of gear at this point. It really doesn't matter. Like, you can probably like take 4 ranged players for your DPS and still make it through the DPS check just fine if they all perform. So if you're gonna take anything away from this video, know that it is much more important for you to play well rather than for you to play a certain job. Just play your job well and you'll be doing much better and providing a whole lot more to the party than if you were to play something that you're not good at but that is meta. So with all of that being said, that's kind of what I wanted to get off my chest. If you're somebody that is going to be recruiting parties for Party Finder, for raids and that kind of stuff, open up your DPS slots, be a little bit more open-minded towards people like, for example, like dancers probably still have a bad image because they do low personal DPS, but they provide a lot of raid DPS. Samurais, black mages, those are still good jobs as well. Just open up your party finders to them and don't lock anyone out just because of the job that they are playing, because that just makes you a little bit stupid if that is really what you think you need in order to clear these fights. You don't need good jobs in your party, you need good players in your party. So that's all I wanted to talk about for today. I know it's maybe a little bit ranty or that kind of stuff, but I do really think that it is an important topic, not only towards newer players or that kind of stuff, because I sometimes have people ask me, hey Mike, I want to play Dancer. Like, for example, I just had someone ask it on my Discord channel. I really like playing Dancer, I want to invest my time in it, I want to get good on it. If I go into endgame raiding, is it gonna be an issue for me to only play Dancer? Well, no, because Dancer is good and can definitely clear all of the fights. Yes, it is stronger in a team composition where you have a selfish DPS, like a Samurai or a Black Mage or something like that. But even without that, Dancer is still a very good ranged physical DPS, and you should not be locked out of parties just because you want to play Dancer. So that's kind of all I want to say. I'm gonna just stop the video here before I keep rambling on about this kind of stuff, but basically meta is only important for the people that go for rankings. If you're just here to clear in Party Finder, open it up to whatever you want it to be, because a good player is much more important than a good job. So yeah, I want to thank you for watching, I want to thank my Patreons for supporting me, and I'll see you in the next one.